This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on the KTPF Community Talk Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our new weekly radio shows. To accompany the KTPF Community Talk Show, we now have our own free magazine to view online or download for free. Visit our website for more details. Also, the KTPF Community Talk Show is supported by Phenomenon Magazine and Beyond Parazine, available online now.
The KTPF Community Talk Show is sponsored by Dragonos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including Fright Nights, all-night investigations and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
The comments and views expressed on the KTPF Community Talk Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of ourselves or of our sponsors.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the KTPF Community Talk Show, live from Manchester with myself, Steve and Suzanne. Sorry,
Steve and Suzanne.
with myself, Suzanne. And Steve.
Hi guys.
And over in Essex we have.
I'm still here. I'm back. I was still here. I was here last week too.
my other seems to have become a hermaphrodite.
Doppelganger. We're keeping the paranormal friendly each week on ktpf.co.uk. We bring you a relaxed show with no pressure, so just sit down with your favourite beverage and listen while we talk about various topics from cryptozoology to UFOs and share information, advice and most importantly, friendship. Remember, collaboration, not competition. This show incorporates a wide spectrum within this fascinating subject, and if you have any questions, you can use the live interactive chat room where we will ask our guests for you, and you can Skype in and speak directly to our guests by adding the KTPF Paranormal Show. And I think that's all in a small case. Later we will have the rundown from this month's event provided by our sister site at paranormaleventsforyou.co.uk. And I'd like to acknowledge everyone that's listening in the chat room and who will be listening on our radio replay on our YouTube channel. Now, first of all, before we go any further, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Paranormal Day. And if you've never heard of this before, I will be telling you more about this later on. And just to let you know that tonight on Sky Living, there is the first instalment of the Enfield haunting, documented by journalist Lion Playfair on his in his book This House is Haunted. It has been over 30 years since the activity in Enfield, but the fascination of what happened in that house still intrigues skeptics and believers alike. Just to let you know that if you we hope you don't go away though and watch the programme, because if you think you're going to miss the first instalment, you can go to if you have got Sky, if you go to On Demand, if you go to the search bar in the home section on the interactive bit and type in the Enfield Hauntings, you will find all 3 episodes to download, plus behind the scenes footage and a programme entitled Spooks on Set. So you can watch all 3 episodes, which we will do in after the show. And I've just realised I haven't got my my popper on. I wonder what the problem was.
I don't know. Leaves her teeth in Scotland, becomes a hermaphrodite, and now she hasn't got a popper. I don't know.
I don't know.
What do you reckon, Andy?
1 week off.
Pardon?
1 week off, lost the plot.
I have lost the plot. I don't know. Well, anyway, on to tonight's show. Before we go over to Steve with the observations, just to let you know, if you weren't with us last week, I know I wasn't, we'll be speaking to Dr Jamie Turndorf, known to millions as Dr Love. Radio and television personality Dr Jamie Turndorf has been delighting audiences for 3 decades with her engaging blend of professional expertise and spicy humour. Her success is largely due to her remarkable ability to turn clinical psychobabble into entertaining and easy to understand concepts that transform lives. She has authored several books on resolving relationships, conflict with partners, friends, family members and children, and we talked to her about her best-selling book, not novel, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased, which came out in August 2014, which introduces her new trans-dimensional grief therapy method. So we'll be talking to Jamie a little bit later. She is an internationally famous relationship therapist, best-selling author and media personality. She'll be sharing the amazing story of her spiritual reconnection with her beloved deceased husband, internationally renowned former Jesuit priest Emil Pin, and how we can stay connected to our loved ones even after death. Right, okay, so did you want to say something, Andy?
Me? No.
All right, okay. I'm going to hand you over to Steve while I put my popper on. So I'll speak to you soon.
She's going to make lots of noises now on the microphone. I know you turned me off instead of you. There we go. Okay, this was in Supernatural Staffordshire. Long-term man cohabited with the ghost of Victorian lady in the 1980s. On a Sunday evening, much like any other, in June 1985, he was sitting in his armchair, reading a book, taking time to relax, when suddenly his cat, which was resting on the arm of the chair, arched its back and began to hiss, and extremely agitated. Noting that it was staring anxiously towards the living room door, the gentleman detected an incredibly strong, nauseating smell. It was akin to the aroma of violets. After a second pause, he watched in amazement as a lady dressed all in black, flowing Victorian dress and wearing a picture hat glided in through the door. Don't know what a picture hat is, but I'm sure somebody out there will be up on the fashions. At this point, it's important to stress that I insisted that he must have been afraid, but he assures me he wasn't at all. And that's a common theme with stories of this nature. On the contrary, he felt quite calm, he says, unlike his cat, which remained animated. The Victorian dress-clad lady continued across the room towards him before, just as she came close, slowly turning and walking into the wall next to his television stand. Instantly, the smell of violets that had a second before dominated the room, ensnaring every sense, disappeared entirely. At that moment, his cat flopped down on the chair as though nothing had happened, and for a second, the gentleman had to steel himself and question if he had actually imagined it. But when I asked him if it was plausible that he had indeed imagined the whole thing, he said it wasn't an isolated incident. Over the next few weeks, the same thing happened in the same order, over and over again. He explained why it didn't bother him. He said, "I knew she meant me no harm, so I accepted it. Her sharing my home, that is." Some months afterwards, the visitation became less frequent, and the gentleman decided to do some decorating in his living room. Guess what he found? Upon removing the wallpaper, he found that, in fact, there was evidence of a blocked-up doorway behind the wall in exactly the place where the ghostly figure had continually disappeared. Creatures of habit, it would seem, as our ghosts. That, to me, I would say is more of a recording, wouldn't you?
Possibly.
Sounds like it, yeah. That kind of thing that suddenly triggers off.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call it a spirit, because it's there's no actual interaction, is there? It's just it's just going about what was its daily life.
Okay, what's next?
There we go. He's up and running.
He's
Okay.
up and running.
A rare phenomenon, worm rainfall, observed in Norway.
Worms.
Worms.
Change from
Scientists are still baffled. Thousands of earthworms were observed falling from the sky across the southern part of Norway, which still baffles the scientists. The rare phenomenon was cited by a biology teacher, Karsten Erstad, as he was skiing in the mountains near Bergen last weekend. Oh, here we go. Muntinlupa in the Philippines.
Just go.
Yes, Catholic Online, although meteorologists and biologists are still unsure as what caused the worm rainfall, Erstad explained it is not the first time this has happened, and some reports suggest that the phenomena was observed as early as the 1920s.
Okay.
I saw thousands of earthworms on the surface of the snow, Erst said in an interview with the local. When I found them on the snow, they seemed to be dead, but when I put them in my hand, I found they were alive. He instantly thought that the earthworms crawled through the snow. However, he easily dismissed that after noting that the ice was too deep in the mountains, estimated at half a centimetre thick. With his reports of the bizarre phenomenon, other people said they had observed the same thing over places like Molde and Bergen, both south of Norway. A popular theory on random animal rain, the worms may have been lifted up by a strong, violent air pocket and then brought them miles back down to report the incident in the UK. Water spouts are being looked at by another theory, which picks up vegetation, debris and small animals due to its tornado-like movement. Then picked up components will be blown away by themselves. The phenomenon, although uncommon, is not an isolated case in Norway. Similar cases were reported in 2011 at a Scottish academy secondary school. A group of students with their teacher had to take cover during a football game, only to find that it was raining worms. Worm stops play. How's that for a reason for a new one in a football game? I'm glad that didn't happen today.
I must admit, though, it makes a change from raining frogs and
fish, yeah.
Fish and stuff.
And what's happening in the cricket, by the way? We're doing bloody awful.
So maybe it should have rained worms there, and that would
be help, definitely.
Would give them all a break there, wouldn't it?
Okay, what's next?
There we go. Where are we off to? Oh, here we go.
Don't forget, guys, if you have trouble with live stream, just refresh your page and we will do the same.
Okay. A paranormal investigator, Jane Harris, claims that many people have reported symptoms such as chest pains, nausea, migraine headaches after viewing photos and videos of a blonde doll called Peggy, believed to be possessed by an evil spirit. According to Harris, who runs Haunted Dolls, an organisation in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, that provides services in the area of paranormal phenomena. What is that?
What the hell?
No idea.
What's he done?
I don't know.
No, don't ask, just carry on.
Okay, where was I? Oh yes, psychic mediumship, exorcism and the occult. Peggy is evidently possessed by an evil spirit that causes people to have bad experiences when they see her image or come into contact with her. Now, I will say at this point that I saw the picture of the doll and I had no such feelings. Harris became immersed in the study of the paranormal phenomena, especially spirit possession, after the death of her cousin in 2000, according to the Daily Mail. She said Peggy was sent to her by a previous owner who got rid of the doll after she became convinced that it was the cause of a series of terrifying experiences and illnesses. The former owner was forced to seek the help of a local priest after experiencing persistent, terrifying nightmares, but the priest was not able to help. She later fell in with a fever and became delirious, and when she recovered from her illness, she became firmly convinced that Peggy was to blame for her troubles. And this is what would happen to her. She'd awake feeling hot and shaken no matter where she moved the doll in her home. The nightmares persisted. In September, she became quite ill with a fever and began suffering hallucinations. When she recovered, she saw no other option but to get rid of the doll, as she was convinced it was the centre of all that had been happening. Haunted dolls.
Mm.
And I think these haunted dolls have become very popular since the what's it story.
Annabelle.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
We seem to be
Chucky
hearing a
was
lot
started
more
the
about
whole
them since
thing
Annabelle.
about-
Do what, Andy?
So Chucky obviously started the whole thing off with haunted, possessed demon dolls, isn't it? Back in the 1980s, when the first Chucky film came out. But that was very popular, and that was some children killing some other child, if I remember rightly, many years ago. You remember the old Chucky stories?
Yep.
I never watched it, but yeah.
Then they all seem to blame them on something, don't they? Here we go. Marcus.
What?
Like I say, I have to say, this doll has got some very scary eyes, isn't it? Quite sinister. Like it's oh my god, it's either sinister or shocked. I'm not sure which.
It's a quite serious looking doll, isn't it? I mean,
Yes, definitely.
Marcus Levin, who owns Get Baked in Leeds, spotted the spooky sight as he checked CCTV footage from the early hours of the morning.
Mm.
This is the moment the restaurant owner, who didn't believe in ghosts, became converted by a white light picked up on a CCTV camera. Marcus Levin, owner of Get Baked restaurant in Leeds, spotted the spooky sight. They're repeating it again. Here we go. Marcus' amazed reaction can be heard as he watches the footage, which is posted on the restaurant's Facebook page. He says, "I didn't believe in ghosts. This isn't sped up. This is literally just what happened. What is that? Something walking through the light. I've never seen or been so scared in my entire life." The video has since been shared 30,000 times on Facebook. Marcus later added, "I wouldn't joke about this. I'm generally scared, and even if you don't think the video is weird, you can't deny that that's what's appeared on the door as a little bit freaky. This to me, this is me. This to me looks like a fake. The light could be the light from a phone, and the reflection will be the person holding the phone. It very much looks like you've got a camera phone there with a light on it. So it's reflecting back, and you can see the reflection of the person.
Mm.
Of course, I may be wrong, but that is what I think it looks like. I will let you guys judge for yourself.
Mm. Okay. How many more you got left?
I think I have one.
Okay.
I think I have one. Let me just get this copied so I can put it up for the good people. We do have good people, don't we?
We do.
Here we
Very
go.
kind people who come join us every week.
There we go. Canopolis, NC, a North Carolina resident, says he had a close encounter with a luminous egg-shaped flying creature. The man, a worker at the plastic manufacturing company, whose name wasn't made public on a report submitted to the Mutual UFO Network, said he had just pulled his vehicle into his cousin's house driveway when he noticed a floating anomaly. "I drove round the back of the house and backed my car onto the grass," the eyewitness wrote last week about the 1988 alleged winter encounter. "I noticed an object, but I didn't pay much mind to it, figuring that I'd identify it when I got out of the car. I grabbed my lunchbox and exited the vehicle." Reportedly, the man was close to being 30 feet from the object when it began hovering from the ground. He described the oddity as a 3-foot-tall egg-shaped blob that seems to be organic in nature. The skin seemed to move or travel around its body. It had hundreds of pores, he explained. The pores gave off a light reminiscent of the lightning bugs. The colour of the lights on this was closer to copper. It maintained its basic oval shape, but kept changing a little from top to bottom with these randomness of the lights. I went up about 30 feet and across the street. It was within the silhouette of a tree, as if it were trying to get cover, he added. The man says he stood there for a few seconds stunned and trying to figure out what he was really looking at. He then went inside the house and continued to watch the purported creature through his bedroom window. It was cold out, so I didn't stay out there long, I looked through my window final time a little after midnight before I went to sleep, and it was still there. When I woke up the next morning, it was gone. Gone. And that is me gone as well.
That's you gone as well?
That's me all done.
Wow.
That's all my little things there.
Well, that's all right then. Evening, Aggie, and Vectra Man, and Monkey Hypno Man, and TTGH. Nice to see you all in there. Just to let you know, guys, thank you for that, Steve.
You're welcome.
Issue 2 is now out. I will be posting it on the Facebook page during the show, but it is now out for you to read. Isn't that right, Andy?
Issue 2
is the KTPF Community Magazine. No, KTPF Magazine. It's been a pain, though, this one, hasn't it?
This one we have had a few issues and problems with formatting, so if you discover it looks a little odd in places.
Yes.
I feel apologies, but unfortunately the problem is converting from Mac to PC. So the next edition will be made completely on PC, on Windows Publisher, so hopefully there'll be no problems. But yeah, if there's one or two minor errors, apologies from me. But hopefully it should be pretty much okay. It's even longer than the last issue, mainly because the main interviews have become book extracts from our esteemed guests, which I'm very pleased with, some of them particularly. Also, you've got the last part of my demonology essay as well, which I finished off. But what I particularly like is what Scotty Roberts gave us a couple of weeks back, a very long, very detailed extract from his book on the Nephilim, as it became the main talking point, and it runs for about 8 or 9 pages, and it is very good. We've also got an excellent article by Richard Freeman on dragons, particularly dragon Welsh legends, which I personally find quite fascinating. It's an interest of mine. And Aswin Riley's back again talking about angels again and affirmations. And we've got Maria Wheatley, who is talking about earth energies. And the earth energies and the dragon stuff from Mr. Freeman actually fit in quite nicely with each other, because she talks about dragon energies in the earth. So there's some interesting links up with our different articles. But yes, it's runs nearly 60 pages, 60, so very pleased with that. So hopefully everyone have a good read. And obviously, if anyone's got any comments or wants to sort of write in about anything in the magazine or anything else, we'd like to have like a readers section or a letters section, if you like, in the magazine for people who sent in stuff to us. So obviously feel free to send anything in at all, you know, any stories or events or experiences or observations or comments on what you're reading. I'd be really grateful.
And me and Sue would like to second Vector Man's comment here. He said, evening, a big shout out to Andy for a great covering show last weekend.
Yes, definitely. You done well last weekend, Andy. So it was really good. So we did listen to it. So we did pop in for a little while as well. So well done there, Andy.
The next month's magazine, I managed to get. We talked about Andy Collins quite a bit. He's the guy who kind of founded Psychic Questing, and I've got a little write-up from him actually about what Psychic Questing is all about, which he's given permission for me to put in the magazine for next month. So we'll have a bit on there, Psychic Questing from Mr. Collins himself.
Okay. Right, just to tell you a little bit more about Paranormal Day. As I mentioned, if you just joined us, happy Paranormal Day to everybody. Bear with me, so I'm standing by. Do you want me to do what? Bear with me. Just had a message. Oh dear. Messages. Do you want me to do what?
Is that from Jamie?
Do you want me to dial you up or will you? I will dial you. Right, let me just tell you that. Right. Oh God. Now I have a text message. I know what that is. That's me doing Twitter. Right. Paranormal Day is recognised around the world. This is a day to honour all those who believe in paranormal experiences, as well as those who engage in paranormal activities. Even if you are a die-hard skeptic, you can still enjoy the day as an opportunity to hang out and watch a movie. Okay. Let me just make this a bit bigger so I can see what I'm reading. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Where are we? Bear with me. Although there is no documented official history or origin of Paranormal Day, which came to light at least about 3 years ago, it was allegedly created by a man called Bob O'Brien, a radio show producer and paranormal enthusiast. I quote that he said, "A day for all paranormal enthusiasts to get together and share their unique experiences with each other. Seminars, radio broadcasts and readings will take place worldwide." The real reason why he instituted this day, or why May the 3rd was chosen is still a mystery, like the paranormal cases around the world. As it is, this day serves to have a chance to discuss the paranormal without the spookiness of them. The term itself, paranormal, has been in the English language at least since 1920. It is believed that the term was coined somewhere between 1915 and 1920 to classify experiences that were out of the realm of normal scientific explanation. The word paranormal is generally a term that designates experiences that lie outside the range of normal experience or scientific explanation, and that indicates phenomena understood to be outside of science's currently ability to explain or measure. It is quite possible that the word paranormal came into vogue thanks to the efforts of Charles Fort. He was an American writer and researcher that published a great deal of work related to unexplained phenomena during the 1920s and 30s. He has collected thousands of paranormal anecdotes and is often considered the father of modern paranormalism. Fort investigated a variety of reports, including stories of poltergeists, mysterious levitations, spontaneous fires, crop circles, and UFOs, just to name a few. He paved the way for today's modern paranormal investigators. Charles Fort was also the creator of the Fortean Times, which inspired many people to become Forteans. He also coined the term teleportation and Bermuda Triangle. What would Paranormal Day be without a celebration? Unlike typical holidays, there will be no parades or commemorative events. In all honesty, most folks won't even know about this special day. But nowadays, it seems like the topic of the paranormal is everywhere, thanks to the success of the 2007 movie Paranormal Activity. I'm sure it's maybe stuff before then was really contributed to it. Things outside the realm of conventional science have really gone mainstream. Even children became more aware due to the release of the 2012 animated film Paranormal. And of course, we can't forget the internet's role in bringing all these things paranormal out into the open. Long gone are the days of paranormal experiences being considered hush-hush or a source of parlour tricks and outright deviltry. Due to the late year next year, Paranormal Day will fall on Tuesday the 3rd. So I'd like to say again, happy Paranormal Day to everyone.
Hey.
There you have it. That's what it's all about. So I hope you've enjoyed today, and we're going to finish off tonight by watching the Enfield Haunting, now that we've downloaded all 3 episodes. Right then, I'm going to get our guest on the line because she's avidly waiting for us. So are you ready for this, Andy?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right, okay, so we'll just get her on the line. And just while I'm waiting for her to come on, I just want to say that, just in case you don't know, if you've just joined us, we're talking to Dr Jamie Turndorf, aka Dr Love, discovering for herself that relationships don't end in death. Dr Turndorf is going to tell us about her book that she created in August 2014, and also talk about her groundbreaking new dimensional grief therapy method that brings her acclaimed conflict resolution method to the world of death communications. The result, an unprecedented new method that enables the bereaved to reconnect, heal unfinished business, and make peace with the deceased. Jamie, are you with us?
I am. Hello.
Welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show.
Hello.
Very nice to have you on the show.
You too.
So, and
Nice to be with you.
I believe you. Just to let you know that we've got my husband Steve, who's going to be asking you questions.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
I just hope you can hear him okay. And we've also got Andy Mercer down there in Essex, sunny Essex, I would normally say. He's also a parapsychologist. So, all questions coming from everywhere, Jamie.
Alrighty.
First of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, you mean personally, like personal story, or professionally?
Bit of both, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll start with a personal bit, because I was born 3 months early. This is very significant because I spent the first 3 months of my life in a preemie nursery, and I weighed only 2 pounds. And a psychic that I know said that I decided while I was there alone that I was going to make it my calling to connect souls, because I didn't want to see other people suffering the pain of disconnection that I was feeling. The other thing that's really significant is that from the time I was a young girl, I had a premonition of the man that I was going to marry. And so I waited until he appeared. I didn't even date. And he did appear on the first day of my freshman year at Vassar College. I had been shut out of all the intro sociology classes, and the secretary for the department said, "Go ask Jean Pain, the department chair, if he can find a seat for you in one of the closed classes." Mm-hmm. And the minute that I walked into that man's office, I had the first and only out-of-body experience of my life. I felt my soul shooting at high speed through a tunnel to the end of my life. Then I shot back into my body, and I received the message, "Remember every aspect of this meeting. He's going to be everything to you one day."
Wow.
And I forgot about that. It was so insane. I got the message and forgot. But soon after I met Jean, I discovered that for most of his life, he had been one of the most famous Jesuit priests in history. He had taught at the Vatican. He founded a movement called Liberation Theology, designed to fight church oppression from within. And he actually launched to international fame when he publicly opposed the Pope and the Catholic Church, because they were trying to block the legalization of divorce in Italy, and he was a radical feminist Jesuit priest, and he didn't want to see women trapped in marriages where they were being abused. So he fought on the grounds of liberation theology. The church should butt out of the private sector. He won, changed the course of Italian history, and then soon after, the Pope granted him the dispensation of his vows, so he wasn't excommunicated. He left the Jesuit order and the priesthood, and he was recruited by Vassar, where I met him on that fateful day 10 years later. Now, the thing that's so wild about our upbringings is I was raised by 2 devout Jewish atheists.
Yeah.
The only religion my parents practiced was religiously hating each other. They taught me not to believe in God or the afterlife. Jean and I never discussed religion.
Yeah.
So in my senior year, I needed help with the statistical portion of my thesis, and even though he wasn't my advisor, I had heard that he was also a statistician, because he had founded the Vatican's first and only social research center. So I asked him if he would help me, and he cheerfully gave me his time, and within a couple of days, we knew that we were soulmates, twins separated at birth, and that was it. For 27 years, we were crazy for each other, inseparable, wrote books together and restored houses together. We were just inseparable. And then in the last year of his life, we both privately began having premonitions that he was going to die of an accident. We just didn't know when or where. So we go to Italy on our final vacation, and as we're sitting on the beach, his hand is up over his forehead as if to block the rays of the sun, and the next thing I know, I see a bee swoop down and sting his hand at the exact location of Christ's stigmata. And then I watch my beloved suffocate to death in front of my eyes. God. And I can't describe to you the trauma of, having him ripped from me in this way. And I go back to the hotel room, and I'm just lying on the bed, shaking and trembling hysterically. And the next thing I know, I feel that man's hand stroke the entire length of my spine. And I sit bolt upright because I know what I felt. Yeah. I look over my shoulder, but there's nobody there. But he was there. He was there with me in spirit, and he has been with me ever since. And so his manifestations have been so over the top and often in front of witnesses that it proved to me we don't die, and therefore our relationships are not meant to end in death. And so as a result, I've created a groundbreaking new, what I call trans-dimensional grief therapy method that totally diverges from the Western approach to grief therapy, which is grieve, let go, and move on and do it in 6 months. My method instead shows everybody how to reconnect, say hello, not goodbye, without the need of a medium, a channeler, or a psychic. And then there's one more thing about my method. I know as a shrink that millions of people harbor unfinished business with those in spirit. And again, Western grief therapy offers us no way of making peace with the deceased. So my dialoguing with the departed technique offers the first vehicle for not only reconnecting, but also helping everybody make peace with those in spirit.
Wow. But as I say, in between that time, you know, after the death of your husband, and you feeling this, did you not fight with yourself that maybe you was imagining it, or did you know?
It never happened once. Because the thing is, when you read Love Never Dies, you'll see the book is broken into 3 parts.
Yeah.
In part 1, I tell my stories with him from the moment he left his body.
Yeah.
And as I said, if you'd like, I can share a couple of those stories.
Yes.
Because they are so unequivocal, so clear, involving witnesses and other players and participants, there was never a question.
Yeah, if you would, that would be great.
I would love to. All right, well, here's one, and you know, I'll tell you a few, and then you know, you have to read the book and you'll get the whole chronology of everything.
Yeah.
I came back from Italy, and I was awake the whole night, my first night back in our bed, and I come down to the kitchen, and I hear Jean saying to me, "Open the back door, I want to show you something." So I open the door, and sitting on the back step is a chipmunk. And I could see that this chipmunk is not acting normally. The chipmunk is frozen as if in a trance. He's right next to me. He doesn't blink. He doesn't run away. He's frozen. And the next thing I know, I watch this little chipmunk mimicking the way my husband died in a bodily form. The chipmunk is ripping at his little face, ripping, the way my husband was ripping at the oxygen mask because the air wasn't getting into his lungs and he was suffocating. And of course, tears are raining down my face as I watch this chipmunk recreating my husband's bodily death. And after 20 minutes of this torment, I see the chipmunk visibly cough up a wonk of mucus, and he's in peace. And I knew that my husband was speaking to me through what I call this open vessel. Animals, domestic and wild, are natural open vessels for spirit to communicate with us. He was telling me I'm okay.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing that happened was I had to fax his death certificate to our phone carrier, Verizon. Throughout the day, I had sent many multi-page faxes to other companies, no problem. But when I went to fax his death certificate, the cover letter faxed without a problem, but the machine froze and would not fax his death certificate. So I tried again with the obituary. Again, the cover letter faxed, but the obit wouldn't fax. I tried 20 times. Nothing, it won't work. The next day I take the documents to the lawyer's office. I don't say why, I just hand them to the secretary and say, "Could you please fax these for me?" So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally after about 20 minutes, all the secretaries come out from the back and they say to me, "Jamie, we tried and tried. Each time the cover letter faxed without a hitch, but both the death certificate and the obit would not fax. He is telling you he's not gone." So I go home, and again I have to do this faxing to another company, and again the death certificate and the obit hang up. So I say out loud to Jean, "I think you keep hanging this up because you want me to remember, and I'm forgetting that you are still here. If I promise to remember, will you let this fax go through in its entirety?" I feel a tidal wave of love instantly pouring into me, and I knew that was his way of saying to me, "Okay, I heard you." And I try again. I issue the fax. It goes through in its entirety. So now I'm starting to realize some pretty freaky stuff is happening because I'm walking around. Wherever I go, strangers start to walk up to me and say, they don't know me, didn't know my husband, don't know I'm widowed. They just say, "Your husband says, tell our story." and then they walk on. So one day, I'm driving in the car, and I actually pray for the first time in my life to Jean on behalf of my friend Emily. They never met each other, never saw pictures of each other. I just say, Jean, please help my friend Emily find love. I feel again a tidal wave of love pour into me, and I realize Jean is telling me, I heard you. I look at the clock on the dashboard, and I see the time, 4:58. That night, I get a phone call from Emily. She says, Jamie, I want to tell you what happened. What happened? She says, at 4:58, I fell into a trance. Your husband appeared to me, and he said, to find love, follow the gray stones to the church in your neighborhood. Now, he had her repeat the very words of my prayer to him, which was validating that he heard my prayer because he made her repeat it. Okay? Now, a week later, I go to my professional group, and she is a member of the group, and she tells the story. Another member of the group named Mitch Wood, a former seminarian, says, what was the name of the church that Jean sent you to? And she says, the Claremont Church. At this moment, Mitch gasped. He says, the Claremont Church is New York's only liberation theology seminary. Remember, Jean founded Liberation Theology Movement, so he was putting his stamp further on this manifestation by sending her to a church of a movement that he founded. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you one more example. There's so many, so many.
Yeah.
One day I was crying in my closet, and I'm thinking, I have to call my friend Anne. Oh, don't bother her. It's the middle of the workday. Oh, I want to call her. Don't bother her. After 20 minutes of this, my phone rings. I pull myself up out of the closet, and I go and I pick up the phone, and it's my friend Anne. She says, Jamie, did you phone me? I said, no, Anne. And then I tell her I was thinking I needed to speak to you. She says, but Jamie, my phone rang, and your name and number appeared on my caller ID. So
Wow.
now, a year later, I have a very bad cough. I cannot breathe, and I think I'm going to suffocate to death the way Jean did. And I say out loud to him, if you're here with me now, please do that phone trick. Do the caller ID trick. This time do it right now with my friend Donna. 2 seconds later, the phone rings. It's Donna. She says, did you call? I say, no. I tell her I asked Jean to call her and put my name and number on her caller ID. She said, Jamie, my phone just rang, and your name and number was on my caller ID. So around this time, I go to my writers group. And the writers group was formed by a guy named Gabe Davis, another devout Jewish atheist. He's heard all my stories every month that we meet, including the phone stories. So he says, you know, I would like to see that phone trick repeated, and this time I would like to see whether your call log shows a record of dialing out the other person even though you haven't used the phone. I forget that he issues this challenge. A month later, I'm driving behind Gabe and his wife to meet them for dinner. Suddenly again, I feel that tidal wave of love. I look at the clock, 4:58. I get to the restaurant parking lot, get out of my car. Gabe runs up to me. He says, Jamie, you won't believe what happened. I said, what happened, Gabe? He said, at 4:58, my cell phone rang. He said, I looked at the caller ID. Your name and number appeared. I picked up the call, and a man's voice said, is Jamie there? Is Jamie there? And he said the voice extended the syllable there because he had an accent, which Jean did, and he did extend that syllable. He said it wasn't a real call. The voice just faded away. The call never clicked off. He said, go get your phone, see if it dialed me. I dig into the bottom of my purse. I hadn't made any calls that day, and I pull it out, and sure enough, 4:58, that phone was manipulated to dial Gabe out. So the point of all these over-the-top manifestations, obviously, it's because Jean asked me to tell our story. So these manifestations are for you and for everybody listening. Because as he told me soon after he left his body, let our love shine like a torch that lights the path for others. So our story is meant to let you and the world know your loved ones are here with you too. They're just waiting for you to open the door of your heart to them.
Wow. Now, obviously, the afterlife is a subject that is hard to believe by many people.
Yeah.
But how can you help people to realise this is real?
What a perfect question. So in part 2 of Love Never Dies, I address all the skepticism, the cynicism, the false beliefs, the false teachings to help people overcome the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to speak a little bit about that now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, well, the first obstacle is, as I discovered, because remember I had no religious training and I didn't discuss religion with Jean, the first obstacle to spirit communication comes from what I discovered is a false teaching from the Christian churches, which say we're not supposed to stay in connection with our loved ones in spirit. Now, this one, Jean showed me, is wrong. And I'm going to tell you, he showed me the first night back from Italy. I was lying in bed, and I heard him quoting a passage to me that I did not recognize. The next day, I go see his priest after the chipmunk incident, and I tell the priest that Jean has been speaking to me. Now, the priest raises his brow in obvious skepticism, thinking, this babe has really rounded the bend. But then when I told him what Jean was quoting, the priest went white. He crossed himself, and he said, "Dear God, Jamie, at first I did not believe that Jean was speaking to you, but I do now." And then he told me, "You are quoting an obscure biblical passage from the Communion of Saints." Like I would know. I never read the Bible, and as I said, I never discussed religion with Jean, at least not when he lived in a body. It took me a year to understand why Jean chose to quote that and only that passage. Remember, he was a religious pioneer in life.
Yeah.
He continues to be in the afterlife. He was showing me that the Bible is telling us that we are supposed to reconnect and stay connected with our loved ones, because the Communion of Saints says that our loved ones in spirit are one with or in communion with God and the saints. And since we are supposed to stay in communion and communication with God and the saints, this means the Bible is telling us we are supposed to stay in communion and communication with our loved ones in spirit because they are one with God and the saints.
Wow. So
basically, this is the bottom line, and everybody needs to get this. What we've been told about the afterlife is dead wrong. This is what Jean said. Heaven is a state, not a place. Heaven is all around us.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven is here and now. So this means we're not supposed to live in an emotional wasteland, separated from those we love, waiting until we die and supposedly enter heaven. We're supposed to reconnect now because heaven is now. It's all around us.
Hi, Jamie.
Hey!
Hey, seeing as you've brought up the Bible and that, do you think that sometimes our faith actually gets in the way of reconnecting?
Hell yeah! Absolutely. So here's another example to answer that one. I went back to Jean's priest, and I told him Jean's continuing to speak to me. Okay, so here is a man of the cloth who has been indoctrinated with the official party line of the faith. He says to me, "I want you to know, Jamie, that when Jean is in heaven, you won't hear from him anymore." So what? There are no cell towers in heaven, or our cell signals aren't strong enough to reach heaven. I mean, all these conceptions, these earthly conceptions, make no sense. So, of course, what the priest said bothered me all day. That evening, I was set to run a group in my home office. I make the circle with all the chairs, and there is one woman there named Ashley who is a new member. It's her first time. She doesn't know me, obviously doesn't know that I am widowed. The rest of the members of the group are late. The door to the group room is closed. The waiting room is opposite the group room. The next thing I know, I hear ding ding, which is the sound that my burglar alarm chime makes when the front door opens. And then we hear, Ashley and I, loud pounding footsteps. And the footsteps seem to stop at the couch area of my waiting room. So I say to Ashley, "Gosh, somebody must have come in thinking it's an individual session time. He got his or her time wrong." Now I hear the footsteps pounding as if to leave, and then I hear ding ding and the front door sound again as if the door was open. So I say to Ashley, listen, I got to go talk to that person. Excuse me. Now, I have to say that the 2 steps that it would take me to get to my front door are very quick, but my driveway is very long and the parking area is very far. So no one could have gotten down that driveway and into his car and have driven away in the time it took me to get to the front door. I open the front door and I'm about to call out to the person. There's nobody there. Nobody, no car, no person. I come back and I say to Ashley, there was nobody there. And she says to me, it wasn't a spirit. So that was Jean's answer to what the faithful say about once he's in heaven, you won't hear from me. Did you hear those footsteps, Jamie?
Wow. Well, I don't know. It must be good when you... I've tried to contact him, but obviously nothing's happened. And, you know, it's something that I would like to hear from. Not from my spouse, obviously from another loved one. But you mentioned you mentioned God and everything, but do you have to believe in God in the afterlife?
Absolutely, and I would say believing is an impediment, as you just said. It is an impediment. Basically, in the second part of Love Never Dies, I talk about the fact that we are all born with the innate apparatus to energetically communicate. Now, we do this all the time, and spirit communication is nothing more than sending and receiving energetic signals, okay?
Yeah.
So what I do here in part 2 is I basically demystified the thing, because we, if you think about it, are energetically communicating when we park at a red light in our cars. And we look over at the driver in the neighboring car. Doesn't that driver always look back at us? Yes, because he or she senses the energetic frequency of our gaze and looks back. Similarly, how do twins know when the other is in trouble, even when they live on opposite ends of the world? How do spouses know when the other is going to call? You know, this is all energetic communication. So in part 3 of Love Never Dies, I basically teach you all the steps that you need to take in order to learn how to tune to what I call the spirit channel in your brain. It's like any other skill. We just need to cultivate it. It's like going to the gym. At first, the spirit channel is weak because we haven't tuned to it. So, but when you follow the exercises, would you like me to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, please, Jamie.
That's definitely.
Okay. So, well, in part 3, the first chapter in part 3 of Love Never Dies is creating a state of receptivity. Okay? So Jean said to me, Jamie, the noise of the day drowns out my voice. So whenever you want to hear me, be still and quiet, and you will hear me. And I found out afterwards the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. So we need to create pockets of peace, to learn to sit in silence, turn off TV and music. Because remember, this Western world we live in is constantly filled with frenetic activity and noise. We can't hear or sense spirit when there's too much noise. Then I show you a specific breathing exercise that Jean showed me in order to bring spirit into us, because spirit is actually born on the breath. Then I also show you how to surrender to your emotional states, but not allow your emotions to wash you overboard, because this is a very important distinction, especially in the early days of grieving. We're so upset that when we need to make the reconnection the most, we're so upset we cannot connect, because the emotional upset acts like very much like atmospheric storms when they block the receiving of radio or TV signals. Well, our emotions block the sending and receiving of energetic signals. It's sort of like when you're driving in a dark tunnel and you've received a cell call, but you don't know it because you're in the dark tunnel, but you come out of the tunnel, I had a message. So same with intense emotions. We're in a dark tunnel of grief. We don't even know signals are being sent our way. So I have some exercises there to teach you how to be in touch with your feelings, but not let them wash you overboard. Then I also show you how to be more receptive by using hypnagogic states, which is that state right before you go to sleep and right when you're waking up. Also, nature can help us be more accessible to spirit. And then last but not least, I have some really fun exercises for opening up all our senses, because remember, spirits, being pure energy, have the capacity to send signals to all of our senses. So the better our senses are attuned, the more easy it's going to be for us to perceive the signals that are being sent to us and the signs that are being sent to us on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the next thing that makes us more receptive, and this is the next chapter in part 3 of Love Never Dies, recognizing the signs of spirit presence. Because most people say to me, you know, I've never had the kind of experiences you've had. I've never had signs. But then when I lay out the signs for them, they say, oh, that happened, and so did this, and so did that. So, I mean, again, because spirits are freed from the human vessel, they are able to produce signs for us in infinite ways. They influence the material world in infinite ways. Their signs include sounds and animals behaving oddly, like the chipmunk, or strange sensations, drafts, temperature changes, chills, goose flesh, symbolic communication, butterflies. And also, they love coins. They manifest coins, especially that were minted on a year that was significant to you and them. For example, this year I had a patient named Kyla in my office, and I said to her, this is the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure, and this week in particular, I always get a lot of coins that were minted on the year he left his body. And she blinks when I say this, and she says, Jamie, I almost forgot. You see these cowboy boots that I'm wearing? She said they were off my feet in the middle of my bedroom when I saw a coin materializing out of nowhere and falling into one of my boots. And I got the message that it was for you, and I almost forgot I kept it in the boot. She says, let me give it to you now. She takes her boot off, hands me the coin. I hear Jean say as she hands it to me, you'll see. It was minted in 06, the year I left my body. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it was.
Wow.
So now the really cool thing, the CEO of Hay House, who published Love Never Dies, said to me, what you're doing next, what I'm going to share with you next, we have never seen before. Because what I'm doing next is I'm taking spirit communication to a whole new level and showing you how you can dialogue back and forth with anyone in spirit to reconnect, to obtain guidance, and even, of course, to heal unfinished business. Now, spirits dialogue with us, as I said, in a variety of ways. So they will communicate through dreams, through mind melding. They will also communicate using signs. Now, signs are what I call a static form of communication, like where they drop a coin on us. It's static, right?
Yeah.
But we can also, with the aid of these earthly props, bring these signs to life and engage in a back and forth dialogue. Would you like an example of what I'm talking about, of the difference between static signs versus bringing them to life? Okay, and dialoguing back and forth. Okay.
Yes, please.
So here's an example of a static sign. It was the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure this year. And I go to my chiropractor's office, and the secretary, Teresa, is at the desk. We're alone in the office. I'm early. I say to her, this is the anniversary of Jean's bodily death this week, and I'm giving my first public talk about Love Never Dies. At that moment, I smell an overwhelming perfume of gardenia. I do not say a word. And at the same moment, Teresa says to me, Jamie, do you suddenly smell gardenias? I said, Teresa, that's a sign from Jean. It's the scent of sanctity. And he brought that sign to your senses and to mine to let us know that he's here. Okay. Now, later that day, I had a patient named Regina in my office who desperately needs to reconnect with her sister in spirit. Now, I tell her the story of the gardenia fragrance. At that moment, I hear Jean saying to me, but I wish I could give you roses. Now, of course, nobody knew that Jean gave me roses every week. Mm-hmm. And when he said to me, I wish I could give you roses at that moment, now he is dialoguing with me by putting the thought in my mind.
Yeah.
But at that moment, he has Teresa, my patient Regina, smell roses. And she sits bolt upright and she says, Jamie, do you smell roses? So by perfuming her nostrils with roses, he was communicating with me and saying, I heard you, Jamie, and you heard me. You heard me say I want to give you roses, and I put the scent in Regina's nose so that I would confirm to you that you heard me right. So he was using Regina as what I call a human open vessel to dialogue with me, and also bolstering her ability, her awareness and her ability to hear spirit. Now, if you'd like another example of how spirit dialogues with us using another kind of earthly prop, which is electronics.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is very recent. I was on the Coast to Coast radio show, and Love Never Dies became an overnight bestseller. The next day, I get an email from a guy named JC who heard me on the show, and he apparently is very open to spirit, and he said his brains were bursting from messages that Jean was sending him for me. And then he tells me that the most outrageous thing he could ever imagine happened. He said his hands were sitting in his lap. He was not touching his computer when he heard my husband say to him, send Jamie a photograph of the peach rose. Now, no one in the world but I knows, not only did Jean give me roses each week, but he gave me peach-colored roses. Now, at that moment, JC said, with his hands still in his lap, Jean opened the menu on his computer of his wife's professional photos, and then Jean opened a photo of a peach rose.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then he opened the caption of the rose, which was called Peaches and Cream. And the night before, JC had written to me saying, Jean said that your time is now, to which I had replied, Jean always told me the cream rises to the top. So there, the peach rose, peaches and cream.
God, it's a fascinating story.
Unreal,
it
right?
Really is, yeah. I was wondering, going back to the breathing techniques, could you describe them or give us some idea?
Yeah. So, and of course, I have a lot of meditations, special meditations and breathing, but the breathing technique involves, I combine it with a meditation for making contact.
Yeah.
So what I have you do, and actually, you know, I do a show every Tuesday on Hay House Radio, noon Eastern time. It's called Love Never Dies, of course, and I do that meditation every show because I am helping people reconnect and also dialogue, which I'll talk to you more about after we speak more about the technique. So what you're doing is you're taking in the breath through your mouth, and you're holding for a count of 5 and exhaling for a count of 5, and then you do that 10 times. Mm-hmm. Then you're imagining the chi coming through the crown chakra at the top of your head, and then gradually allowing that chi to wash through every part of your body, your blood, your organs, your cells, and you're letting all the tension drain. And of course, I take you step by step through this in the book, and it's, you know, a gradual process.
Yeah.
And then after you're fully relaxed, then we go into the meditation for making contact, where I bring you down, you know, down deeper into a meditational state until you actually are face to face with your loved one in spirit. Now, here is where Love Never Dies takes you to a whole new place, because I show you how to talk back and forth with a loved one in spirit in order to get guidance, to reconnect, to say goodbye to the physical body in case the person was ripped from you due to sudden tragic accident or illness. And of course, last but not least, how to dialogue back and forth to heal unfinished business. And so we go into the trance, we make contact, and then we do the dialoguing orally. If you like oral dialoguing, I show you how to write and transcribe what you say, what the other person says, or you can use a tape recorder. And now, here's the most reassuring thing about the dialoguing with the departed technique. Very often, as I've discovered, we have to wait until somebody leaves his or her body in order to work it out, because as I discovered, in spirit form, they are more knowing and more seeing, and they realize how they messed up with us when they lived in a body. And I discovered this 1 week after Jean left his body when I went to take my car in for repair. And Debbie, who I'd never met before because Jean did the car thing, was at the desk. I introduced myself and I told her what happened to Jean. And she said, I'm a widow too. As soon as she said that, her husband's spirit began pounding down my door. And he said, please, please tell her to stop making the same mistake that I made with our son, because now she's creating the same power struggle that I did. So I say this to her, and she freaks out, and she says, this is exactly true. So we must not despair if we have unfinished business that it's too late, because we, as one of my patients said, I wish my mother would hurry up and die so we can finally work this out. And then the thing that's also so reassuring is that they need our help to evolve spiritually, and that they need us to work it out with them for them to progress spiritually as much as we need to work it out with them. So I found this out on Good Friday when I heard Jean asking me to go to the bird lady. Now, the bird lady tried to help us save our bird, and it was impossible. I didn't know her personally, but I know she breeds birds. So he just sent me there. I hadn't seen her in many years, and I walk in, and she points out a Gouldian finch that's near the entrance in a cage, and that finch is looking very bad, all drooped over and puffed up, and she said that finch will be dead by nightfall because the finch has not eaten in 2 days, and when they're this little, they die if they don't get nourishment. So I said, may I try to help the little thing? And she says, okay. So I go over to the cage and I press my cheek against the bar. Now, normally a bird would freak out about that, but this bird did not. The bird just stayed there. And now I spoke aloud, but I was energetically communicating with the bird. I didn't need to speak aloud, but I wanted the bird lady to hear what I was saying. I tell the bird, I want you to go down to your seed bowl and I want you to start eating. The bird instantly obeys me and starts scarfing up seeds like a little vacuum. The more the bird eats, the stronger the bird gets. Now I'm aware that there is a female spirit presence surrounding the bird lady. And the presence says, I'm sorry I was such a weakling and I did not protect you from him. So I say this to the bird lady and she says, that's my mom. My mother always called herself a weakling. So that was wild, and now I look over at the little bird, and the bird is craning his neck up as if he's disturbed by another spirit presence, and he stopped eating again. So I realized that that other spirit presence was making this bird sick, and I tell the bird, go back to your seed bowl, eat, I'll help the bird lady with this other presence. So the bird goes back to eating, and now I feel this other presence, and it feels like her father, and he says, I am begging you to confront me. I know you're scared to death of me, and I know you're still afraid, but I am begging you to confront me about how I sexually molested you, because I can't progress spiritually unless you do, and you can't move past this trauma and this childlike stuckness if you don't confront me. So I say this to her, and of course she bursts into tears, and she says, it's absolutely true. And she has been terrified of him. So, of course, we then dialogued with her dad in spirit, back and forth, and she worked through a great deal of her terror and her pain. And that's what I show you how to do in Love Never Dies.
Wow, it's fascinating. It really is. The question I want to ask you now, if you don't mind, is...
I would love to.
As I say, you talk about chakras, but is that part of the traditional Christian teachings about chakras? Or is it something else?
I'm just speaking about chapters in the book as opposed to the chapters of a Bible.
No, chakras, as in you saying about bringing your
chakras. Oh, I beg your pardon, chakras. Is that part of Christian? I believe that's just about energy. You know?
Okay.
The energy centers. This would be more in keeping with the Eastern traditions and the Eastern, mystical studies.
Yeah.
And people will speak about chakras in yoga, in meditation.
So there's quite a few people out there that do need to reconnect or stay connected, wouldn't you believe?
I believe that we all need to reconnect because, think about it. Children, certainly, who've lost parents. Parents who have lost children, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And I will never forget a mother who came to me 5 years after her daughter died in a car crash. She said to me, I was a devout Catholic, and now I've turned on God. I'm mad at the universe because my daughter was taken. So I said, but listen. And she says, I believe in nothing anymore. I used to believe in God and the afterlife. And I said, but listen, if you reconnect with your daughter, you'll feel the peace of reconnecting with her in spirit, as opposed to living in this wasteland. At that moment, her daughter came through, showing me a perfect set of white teeth. I say this to the mother. The mother bursts into tears. She says, oh my gosh, in life, my daughter, the only feature that she was ashamed of was her teeth, which were brown and crooked. Well, you would think that that in and of itself would have begun the reconnection, but it didn't. The mother comes back the next week, and she's still in a state of rage, protracted grief. So now the daughter says to me, tell her about Padre Pio. So I say, she asked me to tell you about Padre Pio. At that moment, the mother says to me, why did you say Padre Pio? And she leaps off the couch and lands in the middle of my office as if she had been shot out of a cannon. Oh. So I said, your daughter asked me, that's all.
Yeah.
At that moment, the mother started to cry. She said, I feel her presence now. And from that moment on, she reconnected, she reestablished the dialogue, and she was in peace. So obviously, children who have lost parents, parents who have lost children need to reconnect and stay connected. The elderly, absolutely, because, they may not wish to form another primary attachment. Anybody who's had someone ripped from him or her through sudden tragic illness, or an accident. And if you have unfinished business, of course, and then again, if you want guidance, because loved ones in spirit, this is the most beautiful thing, as I've discovered. Their full-time occupation in spirit is to love us and be there to support us and hold our hand as we travel down this bumpy road called life. And they're here to be our spirit guides too. So, and one of the most amazing and magical things was I discovered that our loved ones in spirit are here to help us heal body, mind, and soul. May I tell you how I discovered this with Jean?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so obviously we all know our purpose here on earth is to perfect our ability to love ourselves and others.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our love lab. There's nothing else for us to do here. But we can't fully love others if we don't fully love ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I am living proof of the challenge. How do you love yourself when you were raised in a very abusive family where your parents just tore you down physically and mentally? Now, throughout my almost 30-year marriage with Jean, despite all the love that he poured on me, it did not succeed in reaching down to the bottom of my soul and really make me love myself. I didn't have as good a self-esteem as I should have had. So after Jean left his body, I found the voices of my parents were still resounding in my head, putting me down, tearing down my confidence and my self-esteem. I went to my professional group in the city, and I was saying, I've got to master this. I don't know what to do. I'm so beside myself. And everyone in the group said, well, just let our voices yell louder and out-yell your parents. Well, that did not work. It never worked. So I come home, and I am begging Jean, please help me. Please help me. I just don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, he appears to me in a visitation. He takes my face in his hands, and he turns me toward him, and he is surrounded in golden light. And he says to me, listen, listen, listen to me, Jamie. Listen to me and hear and feel my love. And in that moment, I realized that Jean had to be out of his physical body in order for me to fully feel his love. Because now, freed from the vessel, the soul of Jean, the spirit of Jean, and all the love that he has for me was free to enter me unimpeded. And in that instant, his love for me became my own self-love. and I was healed. And so what I realized is our fast track to self-love and healing, body, mind, and spirit, is to reconnect with our loved ones in spirit. Let them shower us with love. Let them fill our hearts like wells that are overflowing with love, and then we can bring that love to the world, and that is Love Never Dies.
It's a fascinating story, I must admit. You know, fascinating your love for each other and how you've connected. I was just wondering, is there anything we can do to make it easier for our loved ones in spirit to connect with us, or anything that we could do while we're still living to improve our ability?
So creating the state of receptivity, as I describe in the first chapter of part 3, all the things we do to tune up our receiver and turn to the spirit channel is what we can do to get ourselves in shape. So just like you go to the gym, this is going to the spirit channel gym, and I show you how to tune up all your senses. You practice stillness and quiet, as I said. Also, you make sure not to allow yourself to get too upset, which blocks them. And then you want to also free yourself from all the false beliefs and teachings that may block you. So as I said earlier in our interview, I gave you, the way to overcome the it's not possible, or once they're in heaven, you can't reach them. Mm-hmm. But we also want to eradicate all beliefs that get in the way, like, we can't move on with our lives if we reconnect, which is quite the opposite, because what I find is reconnecting instantly transforms grief to joy, which enables us to fully enter our lives. And so we are much more present in our lives, right, in a joyful way, as opposed to just grieving and not living fully. And another false belief that we want to overcome is that we're somehow preventing them from moving on. This is a misconception, because again and again, the spirit of all my patients' loved ones say, again and again, what else is there for me to do? It's my full-time occupation to love you, to support you, and guide you. That's all they have to do. So we also want to overcome the very, very false belief that we're opening the door to the devil and evil, because that belief really frightens people. Yeah. Number one, I have never seen any devils or evil, because our loved ones in spirit are our gatekeepers. They surround us in love. So if there are any evil presences, they protect us. Plus also, we're born with a built-in spiritual call blocking. You don't want to take a call, don't take the call. But I have never found that to be an issue, nor have anyone that I've ever spoken to. Okay. So we overcome all these beliefs, we discover how it's possible, we tune up our receiver and open up all of our channels, and this is what we can do.
Right. Steve?
Yep. I've got two questions for you. One is, why do you think John comes through so strong and continues to do so? And, and two is, what is your motivation?
Well, so the thing is, remember I said at the very beginning of the interview, it is my calling to connect souls. So my whole life's career as Dr. Love has been helping people connect and resolve conflicts with their loved ones and their hated ones. So my conflict resolution, which I presented, my conflict resolution method, which was presented in my first Chaos book, Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, I'm now bringing to the world of after-death communication. So I'm showing people how they can resolve conflicts with those in spirit. So Jean comes through very, very strongly because he's working with me in this ministry. And in order for people to know that our loved ones do not die and our relationships don't end in death, he has to come through clearly so that I can tell our story, because our story is the inspiration for others to reconnect and, again, make peace if needed.
There you go, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
How easy is it to make contact with our loved ones?
Well, the thing is, it's so easy because, you know, I have so many stories in Love Never Dies. There's actually an appendix of all the people I've worked with around the world, and everybody says, oh, it's not happening, as I said before. And then when I point out, I help them open their senses and their channels, and then I point out all the signs, because in that chapter on the signs, I list every kind of sign of spirit presence using my own examples, my patients' examples. And what happens is that everybody says to me, oh, it's so easy. It was happening all the time. Like after I did the Coast to Coast show, I got a call from a woman who was weeping in gratitude. She said to me, I have to tell you that I was lying in my bed asleep when my husband in spirit woke me out of a sound sleep by throwing the remote and waking me by hitting me on the lip to wake me. And when I awoke, your interview on Coast to Coast was on. He turned it on because he wanted you to hear. And she said he wanted me to hear what you were saying. And she said, I have been receiving signs and I thought I was crazy. My friend thought I was crazy. But when I heard you speaking, and you're a very famous and respected shrink, she said, I realized I'm not crazy and I have been getting signs all along. So if you haven't been recognizing the signs, you'll realize it's extremely easy. And if you have, you'll realize through our story all the ways in which your loved ones have been connecting to you and that you overlooked.
Okay,
Right. Go on then.
How long do we actually have to reconnect? Because there seems to be a lot of evidence of reincarnation. So if they're being reincarnated, how do
that's a great question. So here is a great question. From what I'm understanding, the best example I can give you is, see, we in our earthly brains think in very dualistic terms. We think like this. Well, once they're reincarnated, they're in somebody else's body, we can't reach them anymore. That isn't true either. If you think about a prism, and you know how the light refracts through a prism and you get light from many different angles, even if a being is reincarnated, that being can be reincarnated and still, through another refraction of the prism, be with you as well. Because they bilocate energetically. They can be in many, many different places at one time, as mind-bending as that is.
Wow.
Great answer. Now, in your teachings, you say that traditional Christian teachings leave the bereaved at an even greater loss. What do you mean by this?
What I mean is, because as I discovered, they teach you once they're in heaven, they're out of reach to you. So now you have to live in this protracted emotional wasteland, waiting until you die, and then you enter heaven to say hello to them again. And that's where I was saying, because Jean showed me heaven is all around us, it is a false teaching to say you have to wait till you die until you can reconnect. So you can reconnect now and transform your grief to joy. And if you buy into the traditional teachings, you live in a state of protracted grief because you're not reconnecting with your loved ones now.
But for those who can't make contact, this doesn't mean their loved ones don't love them, does it?
You're saying for those who can't make contact, it doesn't mean they don't love them?
Yeah, some people might sit there and say, well, my grandmother or my husband don't contact me. Does that mean
I want to say that I'm getting calls from all over the world on Hay House Radio. Everybody who thinks I haven't received any contact is wrong. You have. And that's what Love Never Dies is all about. When you open your eyes, your ears, your taste, your touch, and your feeling, your tactile, when you open up all your senses, you are going to be amazed at the smorgasbord of spiritual message that are being sent your way all the time. You are not a spiritual orphan. You are not a spiritual signs orphan. You just need to open and recognize the signs and open your channels. And that is what is so profound about my method, is because, don't forget, human experience is governed by what we're told is possible. If we go to the dentist and we're told a dental procedure is going to hurt, we start producing substance P, and that substance P produces a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we now have pain. Likewise, if we are told we can't connect, we don't connect. So a lot of people will say, oh, I'm not getting anything, they're not coming through, but then when they take in my story, our story, and they read all about the signs, and then they say, oh wow, it's happening for me too.
Right. Now, do you think that one day science will prove the paranormal regarding ghosts and spirits?
It's already happening through the holographic model. You know, I'm actually doing a new version of Love Never Dies that's coming out in paperback in August, and I've added the latest science and the holographic model. You know, if you read my Big Toe, Toe, Campbell's book, and Dean Radin, and all the quantum physicists that are on the cutting edge that explain paranormal and psychic experiences through the holographic model. Obviously, I don't have the time to go into it here, but it actually fits with quantum physics very nicely.
Oh, brilliant. So where can people find you then, Jamie?
So the easiest way is just come to the website, askdrlove.com, askdrlove.com, and when you sign up for my free newsletter, I'm offering you a free excerpt of Love Never Dies, the preface and the intro, and a lot of people are doing that so that they can get started on the book because they're so excited to get started and while they're waiting for the full book to come in the mail.
Right, okay. I don't know whether you caught my email about an excerpt for our magazine.
So guess what? This shows how efficient we are in spreading the message. I already sent it to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That'll be in the next issue of our magazine. Okay, so I'll let you know and I'll send you a copy when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. And then also, if you want to dialogue with the departed live on the radio and practice with me, you just call into the Hay House radio show, and I put everyone who's listening into a trance, and then we dialogue with your departed loved ones. And such incredible healing is happening. Even with people who have unfinished business that has gone on for decades, it happens. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. It's been brilliant having you on the show, and I wish you all the best of luck.
So wonderful speaking with you both, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Good night and God bless.
Bye-bye. You too.
Bye-bye. Oh, hang up. I've got Andy off as well. We'll get back to Andy in a moment. That I told you, me and technology does not work. Let me get him back. That was Jamie Turndorf, otherwise known as Dr. Love. Sorry about that, Andy. I hit the wrong button. So yeah, that was Jamie Turndorf. Brilliant. Quite interesting and brilliant talker. Brilliant interviewee. So yes.
Absolutely.
You know, and she sent me an excerpt for the magazine there for you, Andy. So I'll get that sent to you, toot sweet, for next time.
It's absolutely fascinating listening to her talking.
Pardon?
I was entranced listening to her talking. I was quite amazed at the things I was hearing, I have to say.
Yes, it was an interesting interview, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
And if she, you know, as I say, she's getting all that, and if that's the case, all power to her elbow. You know, and maybe if you listen to her radio show or read a book, perhaps you'll know exactly what you need to do to contact your beloveds.
Indeed.
You know, so and I wish you all the best of luck if you do read a book and you have success in that area. That would be brilliant, and let us know as well. If,
yes, definitely. If anyone has this success or tries the techniques or gets onto the show, even definitely let us know how you get on.
Definitely. So just to let you know before we carry on what's happening next week, on the 10th of May, we're going back down the pagan dark route sort of thing. Charles Walker, who is a well-known name in Fortean community, especially amongst the generations who grew up reading the Unexplained magazine, a publication which was for many readers their first exposure to the high strangeness of Clapham Woods in West Sussex.
Yes.
As far back as in 1968, Charles began collating reports of UFO sightings and people's peculiar experiences in the woods, which is notable for a distinctive crater wherein no plant life takes root. Well, that's interesting. As well as an apparent ley line. As the 1970s progressed, Charles' focus shifted to the alleged use of the woods by a magical sect referred to in 1978 by one of their members in a rare dialogue with Charles as the Friends of Hecate. Hecate.
Yeah.
So you know about this chap, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Charles and I go way back. Yes. We talked to briefly.
You better remind him then. Better remind him that he's on the show. So, and he's going to have to get his Skype working.
Yeah, I'll check. We talked briefly about Charles, funny enough, actually last week, because he was sort of involved in that kind of period of the psychic questing stuff, which I was talking about when Andy was working on the Black Alchemist story. Which you want to know the story, you have to listen to last week's podcast or YouTube show to find out the details. But there was a possible tie with some of the Black Alchemist stuff and what was going on at Clapham Wood. It was a possible tie-in. I mean, they say Richard's not too sure, and I'm not too sure either, but there was something similar kind of stuff was going on both down in the south coast and in Essex at the time. And I was just telling a funny little story. Andy Collins runs the EarthQuest conference every year, and it's used to be based in London at the Conway Hall. And on one particular occasion, Charles had been invited along because Andrew was talking about Charles and the Clapham Woods business, and Charles was running a bit late, unfortunately. He got there during the talk Andy was giving, and walked into this auditorium with a gigantic picture of himself, Charles, actually on the big screen, with Andy talking about it, which is quite funny. It was strange seeing a huge picture of himself.
Well, just to let you know that over the years, Charles and fellow researchers have connected this group with the mysterious disappearance of dogs and even human beings. Their discoveries, which have been documented in several publications, have resulted in hexes and intimidation, an experience which closely parallels that of our guest that we will be having on the show on the 24th of May, David Ferrant, upon his exposure of the use of certain tombs in Highgate Cemetery for black magic purposes. And yes, you heard me right. David Ferrant will be on the show talking about the Highgate vampire. So that's what's coming up next week. Charles Walker talking about Clapham Woods, and on the 24th of May we'll have David Ferrant. So there you go. It's going to be one of them sort of days.
Well, the interesting thing, of course, is the guests you've not mentioned. The ones between those are Stuart and Stacey Logan of COTC on investigations, who, of course, are also based down on the south coast and have worked together with Charles before. So,
really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to sort of dovetail with their experiences. Obviously, general ghost investigation.
So it'll be a bit of a prelude, really.
Yeah, to Clapham. So.
Yeah. So, which actually I nearly said they were on next week, to be honest with you. I just had to quickly do the magazine, poster for it. So trust me.
It's May's kind of always become a bit of an occult month, really, with the guests you've got on.
Yes.
So COTC are ghost investigators, fellow ghosties, but also had an interest in that particular area as well because of their coast connections to places like Clapham Wood just down the road, and Changtonbury Ring that I talked about last week as well. I've been there with COTC as well as with my own group many years ago, and as a bunch of friends. I was saying the story before last week about the strange symbols burnt into a tree stump on top of the hill, only to find the same markings drawn on a car that we'd travelled up to the hill in, suggesting whoever had carved the rune-like symbols on the tree trunk was the people in the car that also went to the car park that we were in. So it's all very strange.
Interesting. So it's all pagan black magic and God knows what else over the next couple of weeks. So be warned, guys.
Esoteric, my dear. Use the term esoteric. It's
esoteric. But yes. So we'll have to warn Charles that he's on the show soon, and hopefully you'll do that, won't you, Andy?
Oh yeah, I'll drop a line reminder. Yeah, he's getting on
Right.
Facebook occasionally. So.
Yes. Right, well, I just want to give you my 2 penneth.
Oh my God.
He's coming. Right, my 2 penneth for the evening. Okay. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that, going back to last week's show, don't forget, if you're interested in anything from any range of topics from the paranormal to witchcraft and magic, Richard Ward has his own second-hand bookshop down south, and it's called Man, Myth and Magic, and it's full of occult and esoteric books which specialise in paganism, alternative religions, mysticism, earth mysteries, folklore, the supernatural, archaeology and ancient histories. So if you want more details, visit manmythandmagic.com. And also on the subject of books and stuff like that, magazines, if you didn't hear me earlier, issue 2 is out now. You can find out more by going to our website and clicking on online magazine, where you can find where to download it, or just have a quick through on the flip version. So you can do that there. And if you would like to contribute to the KTPF magazine, then send your articles to publisher at ktpf.co.uk. Okay, so if you want to listen to, if you like what you're listening to, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook or Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you will find all our past shows. Right, I'm going to give you my 2 penneth, she says. When I find it, I've got so many pages open, it's unreal. Let me close some of these pages down. And then what we'll do after that is we're going to give you the events before we go over to Andy. So bear with me. This is my 2 penneth for the evening. Let me just give you the link so you can have a look for yourself. It's basically a story about somebody who owns a haunted house. You may have heard of it. A billionaire admits he can be living in hell in his £10 million mansion that he claims is haunted by the ghost of a child killed in the English Civil War. Phones for You founder John Caldwell, 62, bought the 16th century 50-room Grade 1 listed Broughton Hall near Eccleshaw Staffs 20 years ago. In January, he was granted planning permission to build his own narrow-gauge steam railway in the Elizabethan-style mansion's 28-acre grounds. But now the father of 5 has revealed the huge property is haunted by the spirit of a terrified boy who died in the 17th century. The tycoon said the little boy was alone in the house. All the men had gone out hunting, and the Cromwellians came down the drive. He shouted, "We are for the king!" And one of the soldiers lifted a musket and shot him dead. He fell in the long gallery, crawled into one of the bedrooms and bled to death. Mr. Caldwell, the 42nd richest person in Britain, admitted he has never seen the ghost himself, but other guests were left terrified. He added, "I've never seen that, but there's a strange thing where several women have slept in the room and felt the bed vibrate." Oh yeah, I was not there at the time.
Interesting.
He stimulates he was not there at the time. There are also stories about this ghost brushing past people on the stairs. People who think they are in tune with the spirit world always say that they can feel something, but it's warm, not malevolent. Philanthropist Mr. Caldwell bought Broughton Hall 20 years ago for $800,000, and it is now worth more than $10 million. The manor of Broughton was owned by the eponymous Broughton family from the 13th century. The present house was built in the mid-16th century in the vernacular black and white timber style of the Elizabethan period. The estate was sold in 1914 to John Hall, a Midlands industrialist who extended the property and carried out significant restoration works involving the removal of the stucco to reveal the original timbers. During the 1940s, the house served as a school, and in 1952 it was donated by the Halls to the nuns of the Franciscan Order of St. Joseph. It was abandoned in the 1990s until it was returned to private ownership in 2003. As well as being haunted, the house is reputedly cursed. The curse being that no elder son will live to inherit it. Earlier this year, Mr. Caldwell got the green light to build his own railway so he can show off to family and friends. The 3-mile track will take guests past the estate's tennis court and indoor swimming pool, through the large grounds, and then round the parkland attached to the property. Mr. Caldwell admitted, "It's a mad idea, crackpot really. I'll probably only use the railway 2 or 3 times a year, but I've had a fascination with steam trains since I was a boy." Mr. Caldwell, founder of Phones for You in '96, before selling the business for $1.47 billion in 2006. While at his mansion in 2010, he was clubbed with an iron bar, and his girlfriend Claire Johnson, 47, assaulted by masked robbers. The raiders escaped with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of cash and jewellery in the raid, which left Mr. Caldwell with a deep gash to his head. So there's my 2 penneth. What did you think to that then?
Well, I wonder if he's scared of the ghost of his old company, of course. He went bust last year. And we must have been rather upset to see his hard work all go down the toilet. But yeah, lucky sod.
I bet. Now,
you like that? Oh.
I was going to mention this one, and I'm going to mention this one, but when I first saw it, I thought this looks good. It would be right up your street, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I saw it, because I saw it on the teletext today in the news, but when I googled it to find out more about it for tonight's show, it says the 20th of October 2014, so I don't know what's happened with teletext. But it's on the BBC News. Witch bottle found during Newark Civil War Centre dig. A suspected witch bottle has been unearthed by archaeologists during a dig at the site of the new Civil War Centre in Nottinghamshire. The green bottle, which is about 15 centimetres, that's 5.9 inches tall, was probably used in the 1700s to ward off evil spells cast by witches. I'll put this link on there so you can see.
I've just done it. It's already up.
You? Oh, thank you, darling. The witch bottle was usually filled with fingernails, hair, and even urine. The relic was found during a project to restore the old Magnus building for use as a museum and visitors centre. Archaeologist Will Munford from Pre-Construct Archaeological Services in Lincoln said, "Finding this very fragile bottle is in one piece supports the idea that it was carefully placed in the ground. Perhaps it was buried during the construction of the Georgian part of the old Magnus building, but we can't be certain. It is the first time we have entered a suspected witch bottle," which if you click the link you'll see it. But we did find a probable witching shoe, which had a similar purpose in Wallaby, Lincolnshire. We often forget that people were very superstitious. It was part of their everyday lives. They thought that secreting such personal objects would offer protection from malign forces. A witch bottle was found in the foundations of a house in Navenby in Lincolnshire 2015. Such bottles often contain pins, fingernails. Why am I repeating myself? The bottle was usually made of stoneware or glass, but sometimes old inkwells and candlesticks were used. The most famous witch trials in Britain took place in North Berwick in Scotland in 1591 and Pendle in 1612. As many as 300 people were executed for witchcraft in eastern England between 1644 and 46. The laws against witchcraft were repealed almost a century later in 1736. Old Magnus building project manager Bryony Robbins from Newark and Sherwood District Council said the bottle would be displayed at the National Civil War Centre when it opened in 2015. It's a fascinating object and part of the history of Newark. If it is a witching bottle, it tells us a great deal about how people once viewed the world, she said. Now, you know about these witching bottles, don't you, Andy?
Oh, absolutely, yes. They're quite a fascinating thing. They were, as I say, used mainly as a defence against a witch, was the idea. They'd be placed inside the wall of the building or perhaps placed underneath the entrance of the house to prevent the witches getting into the house. This is back in the days when people did think witches had real power and were really quite scary people. But they are... more normally, I've just put a picture up now. There's a link to a picture. They more normally look like this, which is a stoneware bottle, which unfortunately the link's going to work, which is very annoying. Right. Normally, the stoneware, they have a face on them, which is of a chap called Friar Bellarmine, who was very known to be kind of a grumpy chap, basically. And these bottles were often made with his face on in order to sort of basically take the mickey out of the chap. Unfortunately, the link's not working, which is a real shame, so you see a picture of it. But I've actually got one myself, because the actual bottles are made in the sort of 1600s, and they are incredibly rare because they don't tend to survive because they're only made of clay. Let me just put this link on. This one should work, which is the Wikipedia page about them. But you can see an image of what is normally what a witch bottle would look like. Yeah. Which is on the right there, the stone earthenware image with St. Bellarmine's face on it. I mean, funnily enough, the first book to really talk about witch bottles is mentioned in the article here, which has got a long name in Latin, which I'll never try and pronounce because I'm never very good at it, as people remember from last week, but it's Evidence Concerning Witches and Apparitions, discusses the origins on the first usage of witch bottles. And in actual fact, as I say, the actual bottles themselves are quite rare and tend to be rather expensive to buy, but I have got a bit of one, which I shall now just put the picture up on the chat room so you can actually see the bit after. It's just the neck of one. Now, this was actually retrieved from a skip in a churchyard. So we do wonder, because sometimes people would find these things and would be scared by them and would take them to the local vicar and say, "Oh, what's this?" And of course the vicar would know that it's a witch bottle. Yeah. And sometimes they would put them, just dump them into the skip, and often these things had things like the nails and liquid, which often was urine, and other such substances which would link it to the individual to protect them. So if you can see the picture there, that's the picture of the neck bit of the one I've got, which is actually retrieved from the skip by Andy Collins, my old mate Andy, and I bought it from Richard, who bought it from Andy some years ago. So I'd say, would you believe that bit of neck? You can probably sell for like £10, £15 on eBay easily, because they're quite rare. The only place you sometimes find the washing up is on the Thames. If you go down to the Thames foreshore and the tide's low, you can actually sort of scout around and you'll find all sorts of things down there, anything from Roman to medieval to Victorian objects. And I was on a field trip with a class a couple of years back when I was teaching, and one lad actually found a piece of a witch bottle. And if you go back to the Wikipedia picture, you'll see beneath the face on the bottle in the picture there is like a rose symbol, and that is usually made separately, and then it's kind of welded onto the front of the bottle. And because it's stoneware, that tends to fall off, and he actually found a rose of a witch bottle, which, well, a bone bottle, which I say was quite a rare find. I said to him, keep hold of that, don't lose that, because they're quite rare. And he was very excited when I told him what it was actually for, about witchcraft. But they are sometimes also used to dispel witch spells, and we were talking last week about Cunning Morrell, who was an Essex-based cunning man who used to, among other things, break witch spells, and he was quite effective at it. And one of his sons, Buck Morrell, decided to try and follow the same tradition as his father. Now, Cunning Morrell used to make his, or have his made, out of iron, and the idea was you'd try and gather the bits from the person who had the curse put upon them. You put the bits into the iron bottle, seal it up and put it on a fire, and when the bottle burst, which it often would do, obviously being iron and a fire, the spell was supposedly broken. Now, it was often quite effective, a bit of a pop, bit of a bang, and there are stories where a witch has turned up dead the next day who's supposed to be the woman who cursed the person who Cunning Morrell was breaking the spell of. Now, I don't know how true that is, but we certainly do know that Buck Morrell's one attempt to create a witch bottle like his father, he placed it on the fire with a guy who said he'd been cursed, and they're waiting for it to burst. And when it did explode, it literally exploded and blew half the cottage down. So that was the only time he ever tried to use the witch bottle in order to dispel witches himself. And he later declared his father's work was all very strange. He didn't want anything more to do with it. But it's they're interesting things. As I say, they're all part of that kind of anti-witchcraft, anti-demon type thing that was happening in the 1700s, particularly 17th century, 1600s, let's say, that I talked about obviously in my demonology article. So yeah, they're quite a fascinating thing. And if anyone out there wants a witch bottle made up, just give me a shout, because I can make them up for you. I know all the requirements, and I have the bottles here. So I can't do the clay ones because they're very valuable, but you can use glass bottles. I've got a few here which are old, which I can actually make witch bottles for people. If anyone wants one, if they're worried of being attacked by a witch, just let me know and I'll make one up for you. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So, but very interesting. Very interesting. So, right. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you a bit of a break, Andy. I think while I do the
a bit of a break. I haven't said anything.
I know you haven't, have you? Really? I thought you might want to shoot off somewhere.
I was. Well, no, I'm not going to say anything. I found your guest a little difficult to swallow, really, to be honest with you. It's not really my sort of thing.
Well, it's because you don't believe, isn't it, in afterlife?
Well, it's not that I don't believe. It's just that usually there are lots of holes again in the kind of the stick put full. I mean, she clearly didn't have a real idea at all what a chakra actually was. You know, despite saying she used to open the chakras, and I'm thinking, well, that's nothing to do with Christianity. And I don't know, it was just a bit confused to me. I mean, I obviously deal with bereavement and grief working as a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And you can talk to and communicate with loved ones who passed away, but they're not supernatural. It's a subconscious representation of a person that exists in your mind. It's almost like part of you has become separated and become it's become them, essentially. I mean, that's normal psychological processing, where you can sit and have a conversation with somebody you used to know, you know, and your grandma, for example. You can remember what she used to say to you. If you had said something to her now, you know what her response would be, because it's your grandmother. You see what I'm saying? You know, that's how your mind works. You can have these kind of conversations. It doesn't require supernatural or sort of after-death experiences. It's all to do with how the mind actually copes and deals with bereavement. And so she started saying that she'd had a very rough childhood, and that, you know, she was kind of looking for love and self-esteem. And I thought, it was no surprise she said that, because it all fell completely into place of what she was already saying. I thought, you know, that is exactly the kind of response you'd expect. If she'd had like a wonderful, perfect upbringing as a child, then I'd have been, okay, so that's different. But no, it is what's commonly known as the wounded healer. It's very common in psychotherapy, where a person themselves has had negative or bad experiences, and that's drawn them into the world of therapy. That's not uncommon at all. And I thought, she's completely falling into that kind of category. So I was like, okay, you know, believe what you want to believe. I mean, if you want to believe those communications are with the departed, fair enough. But no, not for me, I'll be honest with you.
So how can you say that when things can happen on investigations?
That's a different kettle of fish entirely. We're not talking about your loved one coming back and talking to you.
But what we speak to ghosts, right? We speak to ghosts on investigations, yeah.
Very true.
And why can't we speak to our loved ones? I'll give you an example. When Steve's nan died, yeah, now don't say it was the telly. Don't be going down that route. When Steve's nan died, right, we would be sitting there watching TV. The remote would be on the table.
Yeah.
And the TV would turn over.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, who's sitting on the remote? Nobody. And you actually saw the numbers come up and change. You know, like on Sky, it'll come up 101, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could actually sit there and watch the numbers come up, registering, and it would turn over. And it done that on quite a few occasions. A couple of times, the TV would just turn itself off.
Yeah, for a couple of months, wasn't it?
And it went on for a good couple of months.
Yeah.
And I said to Steve's nan, right, because she knew we were doing ghost hunting and what have you, and I said, do me a favour. I said, when you die, I said, will you come back and prove to us that there's something out there? And from the day she'd gone, right, the day after, it started happening for about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? Now, okay, you're probably thinking I'm associating that with Steve's nan.
It was quite annoying, actually.
But it was quite annoying.
Sure, absolutely.
But but it would turn over. You know what I mean? And it was like, and you could literally see the numbers.
Sure. I believe the paranormal is a reality. It's a real event. But there's nothing to say there that it's, Steve's grandmother was doing it. Nothing at all. It was just something was definitely happening. You could argue, okay, maybe it's just a short-circuiting of the remote control that's obviously the infrared's firing random. Could be there is an energy tapping into that energy and affecting the energy field of it. But there's no reason to say it's necessarily anyone's particular relative.
We did used to say, Nan, will you stop turning the TV over? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, and it wouldn't happen again. But you know what I mean? And then another day we'll be sitting there watching it, and you can see it go over. Nan, will you stop that? You know what I mean?
If there's consciousness and intelligence there, it could be somebody who thinks, okay, he thinks I'm his man. Fine, I'll be the man. Again, it might be the ghost who's saying, it's screaming like, I'm not your bloody man, but I'll turn the channel over anyway. There's no way of knowing. That's what I'm saying to you. I say there's stuff out there, but the way she was talking about that kind of directly communicating with it, I just thought, no, I don't. What is the evidence that this is actually your relative who's saying these things?
Well, what about when she says...
I can really agree with him there, because it's like, even on an invest, when you're receiving something, you never know for sure that who you're being told is giving it to you is who it is. Exactly.
It could be anything or anyone. Something is, that's my point. I would always say something is. I don't think we're making these things. I mean, we've been on stuff together. I mean, things like my video footage I've got, video revolts. Something's there, but I wouldn't want to jump to the conclusion that I could tell you exactly who or what was there was doing these things.
Wow, okay then.
It's, the problem is if you can't get to that level of conclusion, you can only say definitively there's something going on. But if I come into it with a belief system that I think X, Y, Z is the case, then fair enough, that's what you're going to believe because it fits in. You'll shape it to fit your belief system. And her belief system is clearly dominated by Judeo-Christianity and that belief system, although obviously she said herself that her parents were Jewish, but atheist Jewish. But there's still a cultural thing about Judaism. Of course, my wife's Jewish, and I know a lot about the religion even before I met her, but of course I do now as well. But you're culturally Jewish, which means there are certain ideas that are very much ingrained within that cultural system. So to say she's an atheist, but there'd still be that kind of belief system she's been brought into. Then she's married a Jesuit. Okay, you might be outside of the conventional Catholic view of Christianity, because Jesuits are a little bit outside, but he's still going to have that as very, very strongly part of his belief system. So you've got two people who've got similar belief systems. They're going to frame those experiences. She's certainly going to frame those experiences based on her understanding of her faith and of him and his belief system. I'll have a Coke as well, please. So that's the problem. That you're taking pieces of information, not you, I mean she is, or people are, and building a picture that is not substantiated by the pieces, the fragments that you've actually got. You can, it's a bit like even working in therapy. I say to a client, you're working through stuff, we've got pieces here of a picture, we've got pieces of a jigsaw, but we don't have all the pieces, and we don't know what the picture looks like. You can assume X, Y, Z, A, B, C is the case, but we don't know that it's the case.
I was surprised with her answer when I asked the question, do you think one day science will prove the paranormal world exists? And she came back and said that it already does, and she's redoing her book with them findings in there.
Well, again, as I said to you, one of the big problems, yes, quantum theory does offer possibilities that the world and universe isn't working like we think it is, and offers possibilities of rather strange things going on, which, as I say, Einstein called spooky actions at a distance, things like quantum entanglement. But a lot of people who, and I'm not professing to be some kind of expert on quantum theory, but a lot of people who don't really know much about it are leaping on it as if it's some kind of proof absolute of all these paranormal things. Yes, it opens up the possibility, but to say that, that quantum theorists are saying, oh yes, holographic universe is definitely real, I mean, she's right. It's a long story to go into holographic universe. It's worth looking into because it's a theory, but it's only one of a number of different theories. And I don't think there are very many quantum theorists who then say, well, the paranormal is real because the holographic universe theory is real. It's taking things too far. And it's so often the case with writers in this kind of field. They take pieces of evidence and create this massive monolith of beliefs and ideas are based on these few pieces of evidence that, that while the bits and pieces on their own work, that you can't necessarily build that bigger picture from these bits and pieces. As we were talking on Messenger as this was going along, and that's what I was saying. There are some who believe in the holographic universe concept, but not everybody, by any stretch of the imagination, in the quantum world of quantum physics. So, yes.
A couple of things about what you just said there. I mean, obviously, your belief in what you want is going to influence what you think is coming through.
Yes.
But if no matter who it is, if the information is right and it's doing some good, then all well and good.
Absolutely. I have no problem with that at all.
That's the plus side of everything to do it.
Yeah.
Not when it comes to people mentioning quantum physics and scientists are saying yes, it's this, that, and the other. I would just love one guest to give us a name. I mean, not just lady tonight, but we get a lot of guests that say scientists are saying this, and
yes.
this.
Oh, absolutely,
but one of them, please give us a name so we can check back and go, yeah, I can. From what he's saying, we can concur with that, or we can say no. I think he's talking rubbish.
Again, there's one name she did come up with, which is actually a fascinating chap, and I've read a lot of his stuff. Is Dean Radlin. Now, Dean is talking more about the possibility of psychic communication. That's more his field, of the possibility that the brains are communicating with each other. That random chance is not random chance at all. But he's not into the supernatural, shall we say. He's into the paranormal in the broader sense of the idea of things like mind-to-mind communication, that we can influence events by thinking about them. I mean, that's the kind of thing he's actually fascinated by and done a lot of research in. So he's one person, but again, he's just one person.
Okay.
I mean, he's talking a lot of sense, I think, but he's not going into the supernatural, the sort of afterlife existence. He's talking more about psychic communication. And as you guys know, when it comes to things like mediumship and communication about dead relatives, I think that is psychic. It is people picking up things from other people's minds rather than speaking to someone who's dead. But as you say, if the information that comes through is helpful, useful, beneficial, makes them feel better, no problem with that at all. Absolutely. I mean, I work with clients here who are very firmly believers in spiritualism, and others who are very firmly atheist. It's if their belief system is negatively impacting upon their lifestyle, their ability to be happy, basically, then I see it as a problem. If it's improving their life, it's making them feel happy, bettering themselves, great. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay. Should we get these events out of the way then?
Good.
Oh, yes.
Yes, why not? Here we go. Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. And on the 8th to the 10th of May, Jamaica Inn and Bodmin Moor investigations. You can find out more at www.jamaicainn.co.uk. On the 9th of May, there's Lancaster Castle. For more details, you can go to It's Paranormal UK. And also on the 9th, Ghost Callers UK are at Drakelow Tunnels, and you can book through their sites respectively. On the 16th to 17th, the Bohemian Bazaar is back at the Grand Pavilion in Matlock Baths, with its usual alternative stalls such as holistic therapies, plus some unusual and unique items. 23rd of May, It's Paranormal are doing their stint at Lancaster Grand Lancaster Grand Theatre. Get it right? I always get them two mixed up. On the 23rd and 24th of May, Crew Mind, Body and Spirit event with Rosemary Douglas. That's at the Alexander Stadium in Gresty Road. On the 30th of May, Treacherfield Mill Engine, whatever that is, in Wigan. For more information, you can contact It's Paranormal UK. And also on the 30th of May, contact Trident Paranormal if you're interested in the Redoubt Fortress. I think that's in Harwich. And also, don't forget, Derek Akora's still doing his Psychic Ether Tour, which continues at the Mills Art Centre, Banbury, on the 14th. And Tony Stockwell is doing his tour and continues through with the 8th of May at the Theatre Royal in St Helens. For more information on these and other events, visit paranormaleventsforyou.com. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store is a one-stop shop for all of your ghost hunting gadgetry needs. Run by ghost hunters for ghost hunters, the shop is filled with all of the latest in investigation equipment, shipped in from all around the world, from high-quality digital dictaphones to EMF pumps, infrared illuminators to laser grid pens, CCTV equipment to data loggers. All of our equipment has already been imported, so you can buy it safe in the knowledge that there will be no hidden costs. And with our postage promise, you'll never pay more than the actual postage price. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
Yeah, and there are all the events for the coming weeks here in May. Yes, we're in May, and if you just joined us, happy Paranormal Day to you. Something that's been created over the past couple of years. And next year, it's a leap year, so it will be on a Tuesday. So let's hope that you're enjoying that. Don't forget, if you're looking forward to the Enfield Hauntings on tonight's show, which started on Sky Living, you don't have to leave us or whatever. And if you are recording it, if you go to On Demand, you can get the other 2 episodes as well. We're going to be sitting afterwards and watching all 3 of them, either tonight or tomorrow. So why don't you have a look at that? Could be quite interesting. And we'll probably discuss afterwards sometime on one of the shows what we thought of the episodes and whether we thought they did it justice or not. What do you reckon, Andy?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Of course, most of the time it's going to be a dramatisation, therefore emphasis on the drama and less on the factuality of the case. But it looks interesting when we've been heavily publicising it. So, well, you see, I didn't even realise it was already available on Sky. What's it called? Sky, not Direct. What's it called?
On Demand.
On Demand, yes.
I didn't. Somebody mentioned it. Somebody mentioned it on Facebook today, so I went along and downloaded all 3. So, and there's also some other snippets there. You've got Meet the Cast. You've got behind the scenes program. You've also got one there saying spooks on set. So that might be quite interesting.
You just know what one of your previous guests, Guy Play actually makes for it himself.
So this is it. But I'm wondering if they did have any activity on the set, because you do hear about these on some places, don't you? That
sometimes, I mean, yeah, it
not
depends
very
what you're
often.
recreating. Sometimes you recreate something so dramatically accurately that it causes people to start having all sorts of strange experiences. Yeah.
Well, this is it. Right then, guys, it's that time again when we go to Andy's Conspiracy and Mystery Files.
Well, this week, chaps, it's pretty much all UFOs. There's so little else going on. It's hard to find other news, but there's quite a few of these interesting UFO type stories. So here's my first one, which Sue and I both came across today, and were a little mystified at first as to what on earth they were talking about. Which is this one, the Express, the riddle of Britain's Roswell, solved over 50 years later. Now, as far as we know, Britain's Roswell is the Rendlesham Forest. That's the one most people would associate that term with, but this is actually somewhere completely different. It was known as Britain's Roswell, apparently, and has intrigued UFO hunters since it was discovered in the 1960s, which is obviously earlier than Rendlesham Forest. Yet the weird wreckage found on a remote hillside in Scotland has been revealed as top secret CIA spy balloon. It's another weather balloon. What a surprise! And this one was destined for Russia. It was found in 1962 by Shepherd Donald Mackenzie, very Scottish name. 3 months went by before the RAF reluctantly dispatched a mountain rescue team to check it out. They found a gone down in history as Britain's Roswell. According to who, I don't know, because it's not, as far as I know. This is not the one that everyone knows as Britain's Roswell. Anyway, a reference to a flying saucer flap caused by a balloon in New Mexico in 1947. Now, again, we don't know what caused the flap in Mexico in 1947. Possibly weather balloon, possibly secret testing of American rockets. It's another theory that's been put forward, that they were testing with dummies inside, and what we saw was the dummies slightly melted from the impact, which is why they look like aliens. But anyway, the four-man RAF team found a strange box-like object lying in the heather at Ardsgate in the Highlands. It was a camera port, but the camera had been removed. The team spotted other signs that someone else had beaten them to the crash site. When squadron leader John Sims, I thought he was an actor, John Sims, didn't he play the master, not Pooh? Anyway, told the Air Ministry, he was told by London that no one needs to know what has happened. The mystery deepened when the team was ordered to alter their records to delete all reference to the incident. Now Britain's X-Files expert Dr David Clarke, again, nothing I've heard of him before, claimed to have solved the mystery in his book. It's always about promoting a book, isn't it? It's always about books. How UFOs conquered the world. During a trawl of Air Ministry documents in Kew's Public Records Office, he came across a file marked Top Secret UASF Meteorological Experiments. It revealed details of a spy program codenamed Moby Dick, bankrolled by the CIA from 55 to 56. It involved a Scots-based US weather team using balloons to lift fiberglass gondolas into the stratosphere to be carried by a jet stream across Russia. Soviet MiG fighters, or MiG fighters, should say, found it hard to intercept the balloons, but the Scottish weather did the job for them, as one was blown off course after it was launched 6 years earlier. Dr. Clarke said the Pentagon had spent $68 million on this and was determined to keep it secret. So there you go. It was yet another weather balloon. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on. So this little story I thought was quite interesting. Now, I saw this actually on TV this morning. It was on a program whose name I forget. Sunday Brunch, I think it's called. It's Mandy, my wife, likes to watch this. Simon Rimmer, who she absolutely loves, and Tim Lovejoy, who she can't stand. But anyway, this was mentioned on their show. And here we go. Here's the link. Oh. Oh. And it is the following when it appears. Oh, service temporarily unavailable. That's not very helpful, is it? Can you see the link?
No, let's have a look.
No, it says service temporarily unavailable. That's really unhelpful. Anyway, it's about a photograph in deep space of an asteroid or small planetoid, which appears to have two bright... Oh, there we go, it's back. That's weird. That was very strange. Obviously, the powers that be are trying to stop us viewing this. NASA wants to know if you think the Ceres lights are proof of aliens or naturally caused. NASA wants armchair astronomers to help work out what the two bright spots on the dwarf planet are. And it goes on to say the US Space Agency has called for help from the public after conspiracy theorists put forward wild speculations online that the lights on the small planet Ceres could be signs of an alien space station like the Star Wars Death Star. Da-da-da. A NASA unmanned probe called Dawn is currently orbiting Ceres and is getting closer pictures all the time. But the experts remain baffled as to what the lights are. It has launched an online poll for viewers to give 6 options. They include a volcano, geyser, rock, ice, salt deposit, or other. Assuming the other must be UFOs, of course. And NASA says, can you guess what's creating those unnatural bright spots on Ceres? On March 6th, NASA's Dawn spacecraft orbiting Ceres, the largest body in the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. Even before the spacecraft arrived at the dwarf planet, images revealed mysterious bright spots that captivated scientists and observers alike. Until Dawn gets a closer look over the next few months, it's anyone's guess what these spots could be. So go ahead, cast your vote. There we go. The poll came in after UFO forums speculated the mystery lights could have been put there by aliens trying to contact other beings. The unexpected bright spots in the crater on CERN's surface were first recorded by NASA probe in February at a distance of 29,000 miles. So they're actually bloody bright lights. Anyway, Now the unmanned craft is taking closer pictures of the two brightest areas from 14,000 miles, but astronomers and scientists have still not reached any firm conclusions about what they are. Some research suggests that the cause could be reflective ice particles or signs of ice volcanoes. I'm not sure what an ice volcano would be. A volcano that spews ice. I thought volcanoes were hot. Anyway, obviously, from which icy moons or asteroids. Instead of hot magma, they erupt water, ammonia, and methane, which solidifies once released. So there you go, answer to my question. But the lack of certainty has triggered speculation about online UFO hunters, that they must have been created by extraterrestrials, or some conceived that they know exactly what they are. And then they got a series of shots from Star Wars. Anyway, there is a big picture which shows slightly on one side the two dots in the crater. One's obviously much brighter than the other one, but they're both there. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing, as it goes on quite a long while afterwards, but it's worth checking out and have a guess at yourself what you think it might be.
Well, I may be wrong here, but haven't satellites also been seen on Mars and the Moon?
Yes, certainly on the Moon. I think we covered that a little while ago, actually, so it could be that there is something out there and it's landing on these various planets and having a good nose around. So, I don't know, it's quite possible. I don't see why not. I don't see why, but I don't see why not, you know. It's just fast to speculate, I suppose. I've now lost the show. Where are we? There we are. Anyway, here's my next one. It's all mainly UFO based, but this one I thought was interesting. There we go. Well, hopefully this one's going to work, because they all come from the same source. What was that?
That was me telling the dog to shut up.
Oh. I'm hearing the odd strange noise. I did wonder what was going on. Okay, mystery red light over New York sparks panic 9/11 call to report alien invasion. Da-da-da. There is a photograph to show it. Mysterious red light hovering over New York City caused several panicked residents to call authorities to report their fears about aliens were landing. According to US reports, many people called emergency services after seeing a red light darting about at high speed. They claimed that the light had hovered, become stationary, then darted off, with some describing a flying saucer and others a fireball. Juan Marrero, 57, a pigeon fancier no less. I don't know, they have pigeon fancies in America, but there you do. Got on his roof at 11:30 p.m. on Saturday after seeing two bright lights streak across the sky. He told the New York Post, "I looked up and saw this fireball, whoosh, and then another whoosh, from one side of the sky to the other. Too fast for an aeroplane." Meanwhile, Andres Morales, 25, said he also saw the object and tried to record it on film. He said, "I stuck my head out of the car window and snapped like crazy, but I don't know what it was moving crazy fast." It was moving crazy fast. Similar reports in the area were made a year ago and also in 2011. There we go. New York Times reporter claimed that on Twitter that police would not be drawn into the weekend sightings. Self-styled UFO journalist Ryan Sprague, who is based in New York, said, "I definitely think we're dealing with anomalies that could potentially be non-human." However, Mr. Sprague conceded that because the lights on the site of the sightings at East 149th Street was close to the city's LaGuardia airport, it could have been a misidentification. In other words, right by the bloody airport. However, he urged for witnesses to claims not be discounted. He added, "The maneuvers these objects seem to be making don't fit with any current technology that we're aware of. When they're not moving, they're darting off at unbelievable speeds. I just don't think that's something that humans could survive." Other locals dismissed it as nothing more than the glare from the strong sunset. There you go. Julia Kite posted on Twitter, "I was there around 7:15 p.m. and saw nothing more than the glare from the setting sun." Now, the interesting thing is, she said 7:15 p.m., whereas a pigeon fancier person said 11:30 at night. So there's a rather large discrepancy in time there. Now, looking at the photograph itself, which I don't know if it's supposed to be the actual picture or someone's just representation of it, but the first thing that struck me was, well, one or two things. Obviously, a lens flare if it's a picture, but also there's a thing called a second sun, which you do occasionally see when it's quite cold in the upper atmosphere, where you have a bright sunshine, but some distance away you'll have what looks like a bright light nearby, and it's actually apparently caused by ice crystals catching the sun's light. It is at the right angle, and they can be clearly visible. And I've seen a few of them, actually. They're quite spectacular sights, but they're very definitely just an actual normal
Thank you. I was about to say, I would say it was light refraction.
Yeah, I mean, if that's supposed to be someone's actual photograph, that's definitely just a lens flare. But certainly the image would look like a second sun, but then the second sun wouldn't dart around like that. But, I don't know. It's I just thought it was interesting that one person talked about a strong sunset at 7:50, and the other person talked about 11:30 at night. There's hours between those two. So I don't know, that one was quite interesting. But, again, you imagine something that's over New York City, there'd be thousands of witnesses, not just half a dozen or so, that have been reported. But anyway, here we go. Here's the next one. Doop, doop, doop. Boom. And it is this one. And it's the International Space Station yet again. That seems to be the favourite target of our little UFO piloting friends. They do seem to like visiting the space station. And for some reason this connection is also saying temporarily unavailable. This is very strange. I think the powers that be are trying to block these stories and getting out there. We are,
I got it.
Here's, guys, we're pushing forward with information. And they don't like it. Oh, it's back anyway.
What number are you on?
Huh?
What number are you on?
Number 5, I think.
5?
4.
Oh, thank God for that.
Is that another UFO watching the International Space Station? Question mark. Mysterious object spotted. And we have a series of photographs of some tiny little dot just in the distance. The clip was posted on YouTube and shows what appears to be a small white disc floating near the huge space station before it disappears out of shot. Skeptics claim that a plethora of alleged UFO sightings on the live feed available to anyone online are down to NASA's bad cameras. The latest is likely to be simply distorted view of the moon. The cameras have led a string of YouTube uploads from alien hunters claiming to have captured the moments other beings observe the ISS station. But the footage is invariably dismissed as quickly as by skeptics who argue it is down to poor quality camera equipment used by NASA for the feeds. The latest UFO was posted by StreetCap1 on his YouTube channel, which previously shown similar clips. It is interesting the fact that there's an awful lot of these clips seem to be showing up. So either the aliens out there are very, very interested in looking at the space station, or it has got problems with its cameras, one or the other. So anyway, that was one to go. One more to go. And I just found this one just by chance a little while ago, and I thought I've got to have this one. This has got to be on. I'll just click on the link and copy it and put it on the zip page. Where is it? Well, there it is. Boom. Here we go. And it's this one. Again, it's taking an A. There we go. Exclusive. Reagan asks Soviets to help defeat alien invasion. This is actually from a few weeks ago, but I find this really funny. Ronald Reagan believed aliens would conquer Earth and stun Mikhail Gorbachev by asking for Soviet help to defeat the invasion. A new book reveals. The US president went off script during a summit to warn of the threat to the horror of AIDS and the bemusement of the Soviet leader. The former B-movie actor became an avid science fiction fan whilst working in Hollywood. Excuse me. He confessed his favourite story was the invasion from outer space that prompts Earthlings to put aside nationalistic quarrels to band together to fight the alien invader. So I'm trying not to laugh. Reagan even arranged a private screening of Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the White House for top judges, astronauts, and other VIPs. The book reveals he turned around as the credits rolled and told the audience, "There's a number of people in this room who know that everything is not on that screen. Know that everything on that screen is true." I'm trying to do a Reagan impression now, but I shouldn't have bothered, should I? Reagan was to go even further when he met Gorbachev for the first time at a summit in Geneva in 1985, according to the book How UFOs Conquered the World. It's that same book again, isn't it? That's what I was talking about before. I just realised it's the same bloody book. Author Dr. David Clark said he surprised Gorby by saying that it was true that two superpowers could cooperate if Earth was threatened by an alien invasion. Taken aback, the Soviet leader politely changed the subject. But there you go. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it just suddenly realised it's the same bloody author as the other one, isn't it? Anyway. And finally, as they say, it's video of the week. Little clip.
Andy's silly video of the week.
This was not quite so silly as in just plain strange, really. Just what you'd make of this. There we go. I think it just looks like a very spectacular sunset, but apparently it's proof of something entirely different. The YouTube. There we go. Busted. Harp UFO shocking video shares before it gets shut down. 2014. This was Christmas. Not shut down yet. But look at that sky. Can you see it? Really quite spectacular.
Wow. It's a pity David Lloyd isn't on. He loves his harps.
Yeah, where's old Davy boy got to? Missed this one. Look at that spectacular sunset.
Beautiful, isn't it?
That is beautiful. It's really it's just that's the swirl looks like it's probably wind, or it might be an aircraft trail, but if it swirls around, I just think it may be wind or whatever it is. It's a fantastic weather anomaly, but I just think it's an anomaly. It's nothing to do with ARP or UFO. I mean, in fact, the title, I love the title, Busted ARP UFO Shocking Video. Now, is it ARP or is it UFO? They're not the same thing, are they? We know that.
No, this is it.
What is it talking about?
Share this before it shuts down.
Before 350,000 people have already seen it, so I don't think why we're being shut down too much. But yeah, I think that's an amazing bit of screenery there. As I say, it's obviously just a spectacular sunset, but there you go. Well, that's it from me. Finish all my waffling. Been so many UFOs, I'm afraid, but that's all I can really find this week. UFO stuff.
Thank you, Andy.
Quiet around.
There we go.
So that's it.
Well, we're down to 5. We can obviously scare people off now.
Hey?
So we're down to 5 viewers. I obviously scared them all off.
I don't know. Well, that's basically about it for tonight anyway. So if you would like to be on the show, then email us at admin@ktpf.co.uk. We are also open to discuss any specific area of this genre, including ghosts, monsters, psychic phenomena, or other supernatural and unexplained mystery. What is that noise?
Your phone.
Oh, is it? My phone. Right. Remember, this is your show too, so get involved. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's show, and we look forward to having your company next week on Sunday at 8 PM on www.ktpf.co.uk. Well, thank you, Andy, for another great show.
Yes,
and don't forget, people, the issue 2 of our magazine is out now.
Yes, and you can get that by clicking Online Magazine on the top menu bar of our website. So if you want to have a look, and it's a bumper edition, this one.
Oh, yes.
And don't forget, next week we've got Charles Walker on, a well-known name in Fortean community, and he's going to be talking to us about the Clapham Woods, not Clapham Common. Clapham Woods.
Place.
Pardon?
That's a slightly different place,
Yes.
Clapham Common.
Yep.
Strange things happen there, but not.
I know the Common.
So if you're interested in all things pagan and what have you, he's going to be here talking about that, because he is a practicing pagan himself and runs a long-established Worthing Occult and Paranormal Society, which regularly investigates alleged haunted houses and ancient sites of mystical significance. So, if you're interested in all that, then this is where you need to be, on the KTPF Community Talk Show. And we hope you enjoy our issue 2 of the magazine. And basically, that's about it. Well, thanks again, Andy.
All right.
And we'll see you again next week. Thank you for listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show, supported by Phenomena Magazine and Beyond Parazine, and sponsored by
Reconnect Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including fright nights, all-night investigations, and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
So until next time, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from her.
It's good night from Roxy.
Roxy. And good night from Andy. Remember, until next time, keep the paranormal friendly. Good night and God bless.
Night, guys.
This is where it's at.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.